All right, you're going to learn how to create your own equations of lines. We're going to create equations of lines. We just talked about in the previous class how to do the ones for horizontal and vertical, and you've probably seen some of the horizontal and vertical. So let's go to the first familiar equation of a line that you've seen. You've seen that one before, right? That's the standard form of a slope-intercept form of an equation. Y equals mx plus b. We want all of your equations that you write to look like that. When they are in linear, we're talking about linear equations right now. So I want all of your linear equations to look like they're in y equals mx plus b form. If they're not, then we didn't get it in slope-intercept form, and that's not going to be the acceptable answer in my math lab. So let's look at the first type that you can see that'll make sense in real life. Let's read it and see if we understand it. A plumber charges $65 for a service call plus $30 per hour for each hour spent on the repair. Assuming his service call charges can be modeled by a linear function of the number of hours spent on the repair, write the equation of the function. Well, they gave it to us. Look at it clearly. Is it in y equals mx plus b form? What's the slope? 30 is the slope. Now, whenever you read a word problem, and if it says $30 per hour, 15 minutes per second, if you see where it says something per something, it says $30 per hour, that is your rate. When you get paid, do you get paid by the hour? Whether it's $15 per hour, $45 per hour, that is your rate. And the rate of change is the same thing as the slope. So when you see that something dollars per hour, that's your slope automatically. Well, where did this 65 come from? That's for them to come in and say, this your problem.
No, that's for them to show up.
That's for them to show up and still say, this what your problem is. At least if he show up, he got to tell me what my problem is. He ain't showing up, I'm going to give him $65 and he don't even look at my problem. So they usually charge you just to come out to your house and say, this is my problem. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, they got gas and whatever other fees that they have. So they are going to charge you to say, I'm going to come out to your house. We're going to investigate, diagnose, see what your problem is. That's going to cost you $65. Now, if you decide to do the work that you want them to do the work, how much is it going to cost you? $30 per hour for them to do the work. Questions? Now, would this apply to just about any kind of repair that you get done at your house? Yes. So you got the electrician come out and they charge you $45 per hour with a $50 flat rate for me coming out to your house. How should I write that in MX plus B form? Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I said 50.
Yeah, I just want to say you said one thing and then you wrote something.
Tell me what I said. I said 55. Okay, y'all gotta correct me if I make mistakes, because I'm gonna make some mistakes up here. Did I give y'all my disclaimer?
Don't take much.
Okay. If I said 55, it should say 55 on the board. So $45 per hour plus the $55 service call. All right. Does this actually apply to other things that you get done? Yes. It doesn't have to just be something you got done at the house. Can this be car repairs? Okay. So how does the car repair thing work? They charge you for what? Y'all tell me now. Parts and labor. So which one of these, if I'm using y equals mx plus b, which one of these is going to be my, where do I put parts? Here or here? Where do I put labor? Here or here?
Parts
Labor
is the M.
on M.
Parts is the M, the labor is the B.
Labor's on M. Labor's on M.
Okay, labor goes here, and parts go here.
Right.
Why
Because
should
it was per.
I agree with you? Why should it be like this? The labor, they're going to charge you per hour, and the parts is just whatever the parts cost, right? That's your flat fee, whatever they tell you. So I just got my alternator replaced. It was $275. It was $75 for the parts plus $100 per hour.
You made that up, or that's for real?
I just got the alternator replaced.
Yeah, I need one too.
So, and I should have an X in here. There you go. I spent $275. I didn't want to, but I had no choice.
You too. Myself.
Okay, so but you see how this just applies to just simple things in real life? Yeah, okay. Questions? Okay, anything else that you can think of that you got done, that you say, oh yeah, you know what, I just got such done and they charged me a flat rate plus the per hour charge. And if you didn't get anything done, that's fine, but I'm just giving you examples. Can you see how those work in real life? Okay, all right, next slide. All right, here is the new equation that you hadn't seen yet. It's called the point-slope formula. And it looks just like and it reads just like it looks on the screen. Y minus Y1 equals M times X minus X1. Now, this is what you're going to need to use in order to write an equation. Now, for this first part, if they give me the slope and the y-intercept, can I just write the equation from like what I got right here? Yes. What if they don't give me the y-intercept? Then you can't just use that one. So here's what I'm asking you to do. You're going to be given some more information and you're going to have to use this formula. You're not just going to be able to plug it in because they gave you the slope and the y-intercept. So you'll have to use this. What must be plugged into this formula? In order to use that formula, what you need?
The x-intercept and y-intercept.
Okay, you do need one of those. So again, I'm going to say you could use both of them if they give them to you. But in order to use this formula, you need this, this, and this. That's a point and the slope. The x1, y1 is just a point. The m is your slope. What's it called? What's the formula called again?
Pointslope.
The point slope formula, because you need what?
A point and a slope.
Because you need a point and the slope. So it's the point slope formula. Let me get back to my main screen. Alrighty. So here, I always need a point and the slope. Type 1. Let's go to the next slide. Type 1, here it is. You're going to have 3 types of what they could give you in the homework in order to work this problem out. So type 1, they give you the point and the slope. Type 1, you are given a point and the slope. And the slope. And you literally just plug them in and solve and get y by itself. So we're going to do that. What's the point that they gave us over here on the overhead screen?
-4, 6.
Okay, so your point is -4, 6. I'm going to label them what? X1, Y1. Okay, label them X1, Y1. Did they give me the slope? 1/4. Okay, so the slope equals 1/4. I'm literally going to plug those numbers in for the ones I circled. I circled Y1, the M, and X1. I'm going to plug those numbers in. So you said Y1 is 6. You said M is 1/4. And you said X1 is -4. Bring everything else down. So here I've got Y minus 6 equals 1/4 times X minus a -4. Now what I want you to remember is these original minus signs that you see are a part of the original problem. Don't get that minus mixed up with that minus sign. There should be 2 of them there because my X1 was a -1. So now I'm just going to solve and get Y by itself. I'm going to take it step by step. Y minus 6 equals 1/4. Now, I've got 2 negative signs here. What do they turn into?
Positive.
Positive. Negative, negative is a positive, so that's going to be X plus 4. That's all I've done. I didn't change anything else in that problem but change the negative to a plus. Now I'm going to distribute 1/4, which means multiply 1/4 times everything inside the parentheses. So that's going to end up being 1/4 times X plus 1/4 times what? 4. Now, it's up to you whether you want to leave this like this or put a 1 underneath it so you've got 2 fractions. If you put a 1 underneath it, you've got 2 fractions. I'm going to multiply across the top and across the bottom. So if I multiply across the top and across the bottom, what do I get? 4/4? 1 times 4 is 4. Alrighty, that's what I got so far. So all of that came up to this. You didn't have to add this step because it's very easy. We haven't done anything to the left side yet. Alrighty, 4 divided by 4 is how much? 1. I still got y minus 6 on the other side. Do I have y by itself? Yes.
No.
No. What must I do to both sides in order to get this y by itself?
Six.
I heard add 6 to this side and then add 6 to that side. So the negative 6 and the positive 6 cancel out. And you end up with y equals 1/4 x plus 7. Done. So when they give you a point and the slope and they say, hey, I want you to create an equation, that's the work that you got to do. Now, can you skip some steps like we did in the PowerPoint? Sure you can, as long as you understand exactly what you're doing. When you see me write it on the board, I'm just trying to make sure that you, as you go back through it at home, you can see that, oh, okay, I see how she did it. She put a 1 underneath there to turn it into a fraction, but it's not necessary. All right, questions? Does that make sense? What we just did that step by step by step. You understand where we multiplied, which is distribute, change the fractions. You okay with that? No questions? Alrighty. Type 2. That was type 1. Here is type 2. Type 2, you are going to be given 2 points. You're going to be given 2 points. All right, am I still going to use my same point slope formula? Say yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, I'm going to use the same formula. And what things do I need in order to use the formula?
You need the 2 points.
I need, well, what things specifically, since it's called the point slope formula, what do I specifically need? Point and a slope. You can't do anything with that formula unless you got a point and a slope. So, but what did they give us?
2 points.
2 points. So I got enough points, right? Do I have a slope? Can I figure out the slope?
Slopeintercept, or no, what's it called?
Can I calculate the slope?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so after you see that you're given 2 points, you've got to calculate. So this is step 1. Calculate the slope. Calculate the slope using your 2 points. Calculate your slope. Do you remember the slope formula?
Y 2
Minus
minus
y1 over.
Y sub 2 minus Y sub 1.
There you go. All righty. So let's plug it in. Y'all tell me how to do it. We're going to plug these in so you can see how to do them. All righty. Where are my points at?
-2, 3, and 4, and 7.
-2, 3, and 4, 7. I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, and y2. And we're just going to plug them in. All right, so here's my formula. M. All right, keep up with your negative signs. All righty, so in the place of y2, I put a 7 minus 3 over 4 minus or minus 2.
-2.
You okay with that? That's what they have on the slide. All righty, so what's 4 minus, excuse me, what's 7 minus 3?
4.
4. What do I do with these negatives here on the bottom of this fraction?
Add them.
So that's going to be 4 plus 2, which is 6. Should I leave my answer like this?
1/2.
No, it's not in simplest form. Divide top and bottom by?
2.
Okay, so that's going to divide top and bottom by 2. And that gives me what? 2/3? So now you just found the what? What did you just find?
Slope.
The slope. Did you need the slope?
Yes.
Yes, in order to use this formula, you can't use it till you find the slope and a point. So now can I go back and plug these in?
Yes.
Now go plug. So now here's step 2. Now you got to go plug in, step 2, plug in x1, y1, and the slope. Plug in x1, y1, and m. All right, what is y1?
3.
What's x1?
2, -2.
-2, and slope?
2/3.
2/3. All righty. Everything else, just bring it down. Your equal signs should always line up when you're working problems like this out. Your equal sign should come straight down in a straight line. All righty. First step, what am I going to do? I got 2 negatives inside the parentheses. They're going to become? Plus. All right, so I've got x plus 2 inside the parentheses. 2/3 is still on the outside. Y minus 3 is still on the left. Next step, distribute 2/3, which means multiply 2/3 times x and 2/3 times 2. Alrighty, so 2/3 times x is 2/3 x plus 2/3 times 2. I'm going to put a 1 underneath here. So I have two fractions I can multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. Okay, so that's going to be 2/3 x. All right, what's 2 times 2? 4, and 3 times 1 is 3. Alrighty. Do I have y by itself yet? Add what to both sides? Add 3 over here and add a 3 over here. Almost done. The -3 and the +3 cancel, so I have 2/3 x plus. You got some fraction math to do on your scratch paper. So over here, you've got 4/3 plus 3. I'm going to put a 1 underneath the 3 to create a fraction. What's the least common denominator between 1 and 3? 3. So you've got to multiply top and bottom by whatever that least common denominator is. So now, whatever you do on the bottom, you always have to do on the top. So now you've got 4 plus 9 over 3. All right? So then that ends up 4 plus 9 is 13. So you end up with 13 over 3, and that number goes here. Do you have y equals mx plus b form? Yes. That was type 2.
Where'd the 4/3? Oh, as always. I got it.
Gotcha?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. So type 2, you're going to be given 2 points. You got to go calculate the slope, then plug x1, y1, and slope into the formula. You got it? Here's the next slide, horizontal and vertical lines. This is the easiest of all equations to create. So I'm going to create it here because I don't have it on this board. So let me go ahead and write this on this board so you can see it. Here is this is my x-axis. I'm creating what's on the PowerPoint up here on this whiteboard so I can use it. Alrighty, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just making these numbers up here, guys. Alrighty. I want to know what the equation is of that horizontal line. Now, so here's the easy way to do that. What axis does it cross? The x or the y axis? Which axis does that red line cross? And where does it cross it at?
7.
Done. That's the answer to the equation for that red line. That's it. There's no other tricky tricks. That's it. All right, here's another horizontal line. 1, 2, 3. All right, what's the equation of that horizontal red line? What axis does it cross? What axis does it cross? It crosses the y-axis where? At -3. Done.
So is this type 3?
Literally, it's going to ask you for the equation. What's the equation of the horizontal line?
Y equals 7? And y equals...
Done. That's it. That is it. There's nothing else to it. Well, let me explain why that's the case. All righty, so let's look at this. Y equals mx plus b. All righty. It's a horizontal line. What's the slope of every horizontal line? What is it? 0. So I'm going to put this, that's a 0. So y equals 0 times x, and the b is the y-intercept, which is where it what? Where it crosses the y-axis. And where did this one cross the y-axis? At 7. So now I'm just going to simplify. Well, what's 0 times anything? 0. So now that's going to be 0 plus 7. And what's 0 plus 7? 7. That's how I got that answer. So if you want to see how every slope for every horizontal line is 0, so this part always becomes a 0. So that's why your answer is just 7, and that's why your answer for this one is just y equals -3. So when it says write the equation, you literally do have to write y equals 7 or y equals -3. Alrighty, well if that's the case, what about vertical lines? Here are my vertical lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here is -9 right there. There's my vertical line. What's the equation of every vertical line? It's just like the other one. What do you think I'm going to create it as? What axis does this blue line cross? What axis does the blue line cross? What axis does the blue line cross? X, okay? Where? None. That's the equation of the vertical line. You can't use y equals mx plus by. There is no slope for a vertical line. So you can't put it in y equals mx plus b. It doesn't exist. It's undefined. So you can't say, oh, let's put it in y equals. There is no slope at all. So for this blue line you see, it crossed the x-axis at -9. So the answer is x equals -9. All right, what if I drew a line over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my vertical line at 5. So what's the equation? What axis did this black line cross?
X equals 5.
X equals 5. Crossed it at x-axis and it crossed it at 5. There's nothing else for that. What you thinking? Was that too simple? Was that too simple? Y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. It was okay? Okay, all righty. Y'all must be tired tonight. Y'all tired?
Can you tell?
Yeah, I can tell. Y'all done worked hard today. All right, we only got about 6 more slides to do and then we're finished. All right, so let me say something about parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines, let me pull this slide down so I can use it and push this one up just in case you guys are still writing for that one. Hold on. All right, just in case you're still writing on the other one, here we go. Parallel lines. Are these parallel lines? Yes, the slope is the same. The slope is the same for parallel lines. Slope is the same. That's what they'll say. Slope, same. If they are perpendicular lines, which they cross at a 90-degree angle at a T intersection, here are perpendicular lines. Trying to make sure I made my X look like I wanted it to look. Alrighty. So this should have a little box here which says it's a 90-degree angle. Okay? So let me make one of these red and one of them black. Alrighty. Question. The slope of this black line right here, positive or negative slope? This one.
Positive.
Positive. Why? Uphill. If that's the case, then the other line, let me put this in black. Positive and it's going uphill. What about the red line? What's the slope? Negative. And it's downhill. So again, you got negative slope, downhill. So for every set of perpendicular lines, your slope, one will be positive and one will be negative. Can you see why? For every set of perpendicular lines, one will be positive, one will be negative every single time. So they will always have one positive and one negative. So here's my question. If this slope right here is 2/3, this slope is going to be a negative. Flip the 2/3 upside down. So if that slope equals negative, this slope right here equals positive 2/3. Let me rewrite it so you can see it. If this slope is equal to 2/3, then the slope for this red line is -3/2. -3/2. So did I change the sign? This one's positive. That means this one's got to be negative. And you take the original fraction, flip it upside down. So it's called the inverse reciprocal. Reciprocal means flip upside down. Inverse means it's the opposite sign. So if you got uphill, it's going to be positive. If down, it's going to be negative. Take the fraction and flip it upside down if they ask you for a perpendicular line. All right, so let's practice one. Before we get to practice one, I need for you to know that there are general equations like this that are going to be written with the x and the y on the same side of the equal sign. You're going to have general equations written with the x and the y on the same side of the equal sign. Can we use equations like that Yes, but we gotta change them first. You have to change them to get them to where the y is by it. You gotta rewrite the equation and get the y by itself. So if you're given an equation with the x and the y on the same side, rewrite it. So you gotta rewrite it and get y by itself. And get y by itself. Okay, that is what you always have to do if in this particular case what we're doing now. You have to get the y by itself before you can work anything with that problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, there's like a question similar on the,
Yes.
but it was in regards to trying to find
An equation?
intercept.
Yeah.
Intercept.
But we did the intercept. How do you find the intercept for that? We did
I
that.
know you gotta plug in the
0 for the x and then go back and plug in the 0 for the y.
I kept getting it wrong because it was like a negative sign that I was missing. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it when you, like if a number goes from one side of the equal sign to the opposite side, it turns into a negative, or the opposite side?
It should become the opposite sign, but it depends on what else is already on that side. So if you, it depends on what's already on that side before, if you move it over there and everything over there is negative, then it might stay negative. It depends on what's already on that side that you're moving it to.
I'll have to show you a problem, but I kept getting it wrong.
Okay.
Just because of the sign though.
I'll take a look at it. Alrighty, so here we got type 3. Remember I said you're gonna have three different types? We got type 1, they gave you a point and a slope. Type 2, they gave you what? 2 points. Type 3, they're gonna give you a point and an equation. Got it? Type 3, you're gonna have a point and an equation. Type 3, you're given a point and an equation. What you got to do to that equation first? Rewrite it with y by itself. Okay, so am I going to use my formula that I've been using? Am I going to use my y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, in order to use it, I need a point and a
Slope.
Do I have a point?
Yes.
Do I know the slope immediately?
No.
No. So I got to go figure out how I'm going to figure the slope out. Alrighty, so step 1, rewrite the equation with y by itself. Getting y by itself. Alrighty, so let's do that. Alright, so I've got 5x minus 2y equals 8. Alrighty, can I subtract 5x from both sides? Yes, because my goal is to get the y by itself. So now the 5x minus 5x is going to cancel. And I end up with negative 2y equals, now when you write what's on the right side, always put the term that has the x attached to it first. Why? Because we're trying to get it in y equals mx plus b form. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and start putting that mx in its right place. So I've got negative 5x plus 8, because that's a positive 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty? We're trying to get to mx plus b, so I went ahead and put that negative 5x, going to put it right there. Alrighty, divide everything on both sides by
Two.
Negative 2.
negative 2. Thank you. Alrighty, here is dividing by negative 2. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. So my negative 2's on the left side cancel, and I end up with y equals, I've got a negative 5 divided by negative 2, which is a positive 5 over 2, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's positive 5 over 2x.
Minus 4.
And 8 divided by negative 2 is how much? Negative 4. Do you have y equals mx plus b?
Yes.
So, do you now know the slope?
Yes.
Okay, what's the slope?
5 over 2.
So, slope or m, call it whichever one you want to call it, slope or m is equal to 5 over 2. Did I need that number?
Yes.
You did, because you needed a point and the slope. Now I'm going to go plug in the slope and the x1 and the y1. What was my x1, y1?
Negative 2.
Negative 2 comma 3?
Yes.
Yes, there's my x1, y1. So I'm gonna plug all these things in. Now that I have enough information, let's go plug it in. Alrighty, so now.
Step 2 is to plug it in.
Yep, step 2 is now we're gonna plug in x1, y1, and m. Step 2, plug in x1, y1, and m. Alrighty, so my y1 is a 3, my m is 5/2, and my x1 is a -2. Now I'm going to do just like we did with the previous problems and just simplify till I get y by itself. Alrighty, so you see I got two negatives in the parentheses, right? So I'm going to turn that to a +2. I am going to distribute, which means multiply 5/2 times x and 5/2 times 2. Haven't done anything to the left side yet. So 5/2 times x is 5/2x. And 5/2 times 2. I'm going to put a 1 underneath here. You don't have to. You can cancel those two 2's out. Alrighty, so I've got 5/2x. Alright, what's 5 times 2? 10, and 2 times 1 is 2. Again, I'm saying this to say, if you already see this and you know what to do with that, you didn't have to do all this work, you just put 5. Alrighty, so now I've got 10 divided by 2 is 5. Do I have y by itself yet? Add what to both sides?
3.
Add 3 to both sides, and now you have y by itself on the left, and so my final answer is y equals 5/2 plus x plus 8. Is that what's on the PowerPoint? Can you see that they cut out steps that I didn't cut out? All right, you see that in the homework they're going to give you 3 separate types of problems, and you have to figure out which type and what to do based upon which type. Now let me say this, in one of the homework problems, it gives you an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Is that type 1, type 2, or type 3? It just gives you an x-intercept. It says, here's what it says. It says x-intercept equals 5, and it says y-intercept equals -2.
Is that type 2?
So which type is that? If I say, write the equation given x-intercept is 5 and y-intercept, is that type 1, type 2, or type 3? Now before you answer, type 1 says you got a point and a slope. Do you have a point and a slope? So it ain't type 1. Type 3 says you got a point and an equation. Do you have an equation here? No. So type 2 says you have 2 points. Do you have 2 points?
Yeah.
Aha. They are assuming that you remember that x-intercept is a point that's already on the graph. This is a point on the what axis? And this is a point on the y-axis. So how do I write these as ordered pairs? How do I write this x-intercept 5 as an ordered pair? 5, 0. How do I write this y-intercept as an ordered pair?
0.
Done. So you see how they're just trying to force you to think outside the box just a little bit. They didn't just outright give you the 2, whatever. They said, oh, I'm going to give them an x and y intercept and see if they catch it. So yes, you will see one like that in the homework as well. Here is the next one. What's the difference between the previous slide and that slide? Yes.
So if they give it to you like that, you just gotta go back and figure out the slope to put in?
Or if they give you these two, then you gotta do everything we did with type 2. If they give you these, these are considered 2 points, so you gotta do type 2. Alrighty, so back to, we're on the slide. What is the difference between what we just did with this one and that one? Let me go back to the slide, go back up, hold on. What does that one say it wants you to do? Write an equation for what? Parallel line. What does this next slide say? A perpendicular line. So over here, you gotta make sure if it's a parallel line, the slope stays the same. If it's a perpendicular line, you gotta find a new slope, right? Okay, so it's still a type 3, but you gotta go find a new slope. So it gave me the same equation. Do I need to go back and get y by itself again? No, you already got y by itself. But do I need the new slope? What's the new slope?
-2/5.
Negative. You got to flip it upside down and change the sign. Alrighty, so let me erase something here so I can utilize my space. I'm going to erase what's in the middle right here. Alrighty, so this one was for parallel, right? We were looking for what kind of a parallel lines. Over here, we have what kind of lines? Perpendicular lines. Alrighty, so do I have a point? And do I have the slope? Okay, so here's my point for -2, 3. What's my new slope again?
-2/5.
Okay, my new slope, m, is equal to -2/5. Alrighty, so label this as x1, x1, y1, and then I'm going to go plug everything in just like I did before and do the same process. Alrighty, so I've got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, plug everything in. Alright, so I've got a 3 here and a -2 here, and a -2/5 for my slope. Y minus, alrighty, let's see. I'm going to follow the same steps, we're just going to get a different answer. Alrighty, so I've got y minus 3 over here on the left, -2/5 times x plus 2, because the two negatives inside the parentheses turn to positive. Distribute -2/5 to both of those, so you end up with -2/5 x. Alrighty, so I've got a -2/5 x, and then I've got a -2/5 times 2. I'm going to put a 1 underneath it. That's times 2. On the left, I didn't change it yet. Alrighty, I've got a -2 times a +2. How much is that? -2 times +2? -4, and now 5 times 1. So you should have a -4/5. So now on the board is y minus 3 equals -2/5 x minus 4/5. Do I have y by itself yet? Not quite. Add 3 to both sides. So now y is equal to -2/5 times x. You got some fraction math to go do on your scratch paper. So you got -4/5 plus 3. Put a 1 underneath it. My least common denominator is 5. So now I've got -4 plus 15/5. That's 11/5. So down here, 11/5. That is the same work that you had to do, just change the slope. We just had to get a new slope. So just following the slide, is that what the PowerPoint says? Did we get the same answers to PowerPoint? Yep, we did. All righty, last two slides. Last two slides says, how does this apply to real life? Everything in this class relates back to real life. So these last two slides give us an example of how it relates back to real life. So I'm going to push both of these two boards up. Can I push this one up? This one right here, I can push it up. So I can use this white space right here. All right, let's read the problem. A company charting its profits notices that the relationship between the number of units sold, which we're going to call X, and the profit, which we're going to call P, is linear. They're saying there's a relationship between how much you sell and how much money you make. Is that usually the case? Yes, okay. Now, if 300 units were sold, it results in $4,650 in profit. If you sell 375, it results in $9,000 profit. Given the information, can you write an equation with the data that you have? Now, let me ask you the first question. Is this information type 1, type 2, or type 3? You need to see it again. Is what you are given, did they give you a point and a slope? Did they give you 2 points, or did they give you a point and an equation?
It's 2 points.
Type 2. They gave you 2 points. Can you figure out what those 2 points are?
X equals 300.
Okay, here's what I need you to see clearly with this one. Here's what's clear about this one. Remember, something goes in, happens inside the dryer, right? And something comes out, correct? All righty. What's going in? First, 300
Units.
get sold. What's happening inside the dryer? Things getting sold, right? 300 go in. What pops out? You made $46.50 in dollars. So this is units sold. Those are units. They got sold. This is how much money made. Let's do the next one. Where's the other one? 375. Got sold. What'd you get out? 9,000. Do you have 2 points?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. So here is 300, comma, 46.50, and 375, comma, 9,000. So what am I gonna do? I got a point in the slope, so I gotta go do the slope, calculate the slope? Yep, you gotta go calculate the slope. So I'm gonna do M is equal to 9,000 minus 46.50 over 375 minus 300. All right, somebody help me do the math. 9,000 minus 46.50, what is that, 34.50? Or 43.50? Somebody tell me, which one is right? 43.50? All righty, divide that by 75, is that 58? All righty, do you know that on top, these are dollars? What's on, now these represented dollars, didn't they?
Right.
These represented what?
Units sold.
Units sold. So you gotta remember that these are units sold. So this is dollars, these are units sold. So when you get down to your final answer, this is red. Your profit is $58 per unit sold. So you're gonna make $58 for each one you sell, right? That's what that says. That's your slope. Remember, it's kind of like we said, if you're gonna make how much money you make per hour, that's your slope, $30 per hour. You're making $58 per unit sold. Alrighty, so I have a slope and a point. Can I now go do my formula? Yes. So now I can go do y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alrighty, my slope is 58 times x minus. Alrighty, so I've got a y. Does it matter which one did we label x1 and y1? We'll do it again. Here's what I'm saying. Do we label this x1, y1, x2, y2? Okay, so I've got over here 46.50 goes here, 58 was here, and 300 goes here. Alrighty, multiply 58 times everything inside the parentheses, so that's going to be 58x. What's 58 times 300? Somebody do the math for me.
17,400.
17,400. I need to get y by itself. Add what to both sides?
46.50.
Okay. All right. Somebody do the math for me on this one. Negative 17,400 plus 46.50 is negative. Is that 12?
12,750.
That is the equation for that data, for that word problem. That is the equation for that word problem. Now, is the slope positive or negative here? Positive. Should you expect it to be an uphill line or a downhill line? Uphill. Don't you want to make more money every time you sell more? Okay. All righty. Last one. Let's read the problem. A business uses straight line depreciation. Straight line depreciation means that something depreciate means it loses value. Straight line means it loses the exact same amount of value every year. Okay? Straight line depreciation means you're losing the exact same amount of value every single year. Alrighty, so I've got a business that uses straight line depreciation to determine the value, which is our Y, the value of an automobile over a 5-year period of time. All right, suppose the original value, which is when t equals 0, is $26,000. The salvage value, which is when t equals 5, is $1,000. So now we need to make sure we understand everything in that problem. When t equals 0, you just bought the car. You ain't drove it off. You just signed the papers. You got $26,000 worth of value in the car. At t equals 0, you just signed the papers. T equals 5 is 5 years later. The car salvage value is how much is it worth now? How much is it worth 5 years later? $1,000. That's a shame. You done spent over $26,000 after you done paid interest, of course. But look at what it's worth 5 years later. All right, based upon the information, did they give you a type 1, a type 2, or a type 3?
Type 2.
Type 2 again. You got a type 2. What's my 2 points? Okay, and instead of X and Y, what letters are we using? T and S. So here is my ordered pairs. What ordered pairs do I have?
So 0, 26,000.
So this is T and this is S.
0.
These are your X and your Y's are T and S. So now 0, how much was it worth?
26,000.
26,000 when you first bought it. That was at T equals 0. How much was it worth 5 years later? $1,000 5 years later. What kind of car was that? Okay, maybe did you trash it?
They probably did.
Okay, so now, do we have enough information to do the slope? Can I do the slope? Okay, so that's going to be 26,000. Here, let's do the slope. 26,000 minus 1,000. So 26, remember this is my Y2. I can call it X, Y2 here. X1, Y1. Alrighty, so 26,000 minus 1,000 over 0 minus 5. Alright.
Over 2. Oh, yeah.
So 26,000 minus 1,000 is 25,000, right? Divided by negative 5. What's 25,000 divided by negative 5?
250.
Negative 5,000.
Negative 5.
So, that's your slope. That says that your car did what? Depreciated by how much?
$5,000 a year.
$5,000 per year. That's what that says, that your car depreciated by $5,000 per year.
That's a Kia
Each
or a
year.
Hyundai.
Huh?
That's a Kia or a Hyundai.
Okay. Alrighty. Do I have enough information now to plug it back in the Pointslope formula?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so then we can go do that. Let's erase what's over here on this side so I can go do that. Plugging it back into the formula. So here I go. I've got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Does it matter which points I pick? No. So y minus, what's y1 over here I label? $1,000?
Correct.
I label that as y1. What's my slope again? Negative 5,000 times x minus, and what was my x1 is 5. Alrighty, you ready? So now I've got negative 5,000 x, and so I'm going to distribute, which is multiply, and then I've got a negative 25,000. So make sure my math looks right. Alrighty? I've got y minus 1,000 over here on this side. I need to get y by itself. I add 1,000 to both sides. Add 1,000 to both sides. The negative 1,000 and positive 1,000 cancels. On the left side, so I have y is equal to negative 5,000x. What is that? 24, negative 24,000. Make sure my math looks right. Oh, I have a question. Where's my, there's an incorrect part up here on the board. What's wrong? I have a mistake. Negative 5,000 times a negative 5 should be a, should be positive. That should be a positive. We're just going to make this what? It's going to make that positive 26,000. There we go. That is the equation for that data. That's what you're going to be expected to do on homework. All right, questions? Did y'all sign my sign-in sheet? It was a sheet this time because I misplaced and left my actual other one in another classroom, so I gotta go get it. Did you sign my sign-in sheet? Where is the sign-in sheet? It's a sheet, literally it's a sheet of paper, got 6:30 on one side, 5:30 on the other side. Need you to make sure you sign it before you leave. And let me stop this.